This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
This is Luca Perich, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
Everybody, welcome back to another week of the Nightwing news. I am Phil. Kristen is here as always. We have some special guests. Well, you know, Tyler from the Krypton Report.
Hello.
And of course, I know, well, yeah, you're all here for Tyler. But yes, we're also talking to Kyle Higgins, writer of all things Nightwing in the New 52 era. Hello, Kyle.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
I'm super excited just saying that right now. Okay.
So you jumped over from a different show.
I was going to say you didn't do much with your wall decor.
That's the basement. Just is the basement. It is what it is.
But I feel like if you were really excited, you would have swapped all that that super stuff out for some good Robin's Egg Blue wing action.
Oh, nice!
I got the shirt on. I mean,
that's true.
I always do it wrong.
And the name is Kryptonian synonymous. So it all works out actually.
It does.
It does work.
He's like Saturday Night Live. He has a little band section on the right over there.
Yeah.
So it's so nice to meet you all. I know Kristen, but I don't know if I have Tyler. You look familiar.
We were friends on Facebook. We were friends on Facebook and we chatted before years ago.
Yeah,
just a little bit. So
I got rid of my Facebook in like a year ago, and I'm in the midst of a Kickstarter campaign right now. And so our publicist was like, "Make sure you post this all on Facebook." Like the day of the campaign launch, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't have a Facebook anymore." And he blew his mind. He's like, "Well, you better restart it." So
yeah, you did restart it because I saw your Kickstarter.
Well, don't worry.
Much to my mother's immense joy that I am back on Facebook. Because for the last year, she's like, "Oh, I tagged you in something on Facebook." I was like, "No, I don't have Facebook anymore." She's like, "Oh, did you see what so-and-so posted on Facebook? Did you see it?" I was like, "No, I don't. I wouldn't. Even if I was on Facebook, I would not have seen what so-and-so."
That's why everybody quit once everybody's mom got on.
But yeah, I'll put a link to the Kickstarter and everything when we post this episode. So.
Oh, thank you.
I ride the middle line. See, I have my Facebook, but I just got rid of my Facebook app. So I'm not ever on it anymore. I only used it through for the podcast stuff.
Right.
So I just got tired of it, but I didn't want to delete it because I've had it since 2004.
See, I have no self-control in that regard. I'm either all in or not in at all. So if I have it, it's like I can delete apps off my phone, but then I'll just inevitably in a moment of weakness, load up Safari on my phone and just go to the browser login. And it's like, what? I've deleted Twitter off my phone so many times, and then I'll go for 4 months where I'm checking Twitter just as regularly, but through the browser. And somehow that makes me feel It's like, no, it's not the same. I don't have it on my phone. Like, yeah, but you're still checking it literally the exact same amount.
So the whole social media thing, did you get rid of it just because it was time consuming, or were people just being idiots?
Well, no, it's not the latter. I don't like, well, there's two things. It's very addictive, and I do not like feeling, I have enough things in my life that I feel like I don't have control over, and requiring this like constant like I would be the world's worst drug addict, because I would die, and I would overdose and die like first night out. Like if my relationship with sugar and pizza is any indication, yeah. So I don't like having something where I feel like this almost like borderline addictive necessity to constantly be checking. And the other thing too is like I'm very much for as I don't know, for as much as I like writing science fiction, there's a part of me that is a little bit of a Luddite, and I do miss the era. Like I have a landline here next to me. Now it's in 1966.
You are like Dick Grayson. Remember that one issue where he's like, "I'm 78. I have a landline." You didn't write that one though, did you?
Did I write it? I might have. It sounds like that.
I don't know. We'll have to look it back up. I remember that one. Though.
Oh! Look at that poster! Look at that poster! Look at the poster on the wall.
Oh, that's Superman.
Is that Superman?
The first movie, yeah.
I interned for Richard Donner, and my mentor was Tom Mankiewicz, who wrote Superman. And Tom gave me, I don't think it was this copy. I think I gave the one away to a friend, or the copy that he gave me. But he had this poster in his closet for 30 years, and he gave it to me. And I bought a second one off eBay because I think the one he gave me had some holes in it or something. But anyway, I never had him sign it. And then when he passed away, about 10 years ago now, I reached back out to Donner's and I was like, hey, can we get Dick to sign this because he's getting old? And so you probably can't see it, but what it says is, Kyle, hope to sign your DGA card, Dick, and the Directors Guild of America. And the only way you get in is with a member who sponsors you, and so he's off. It's so cool. And so that's in my little office here. And then, but the reason I'm holding my camera is because it's
a red phone.
It's a 60s bat phone. It lights up. It does the whole 9 yards. And actually, the Nightwing poster behind me, that is, well, Kristen, maybe you can, I'm sure you probably know what that is and what that's from. Let's see.
Is that the first one?
Well, it's the cover to the Dixon McDaniel.
Yeah, Nightwing #1.
Yeah.
Nightwing #1, but it was like a limited. Not limited. It was like a promotional poster that they sent out, that DC sent out to comic stores in like 95, 96, whenever that series. I think that series debuted in 96. And when I got the New 52 gig, I found that also on eBay, and I reached out to Chuck Dixon and Scott McDaniel, both of whom I had met before. When I was very young, when I was like 14, 15, they were both very, very gracious and awesome to me at the time. And they both had me mail it to them, so they both signed it to me. So it's kind of like a passing of the torch.
That's awesome.
But it does make it a little weird when I do Zoom calls. I just did a Zoom. To be really careful what I say here. I just did a Zoom where it was like, it was definitely the proverbial elephant, like in the room, like over my shoulder, where we had to acknowledge it at a certain point. And it was like, but that's, and I told the story. So, yeah.
See, Kyle, I first became aware of like your writings and everything. I heard your interview years ago on Fat Man on Batman.
Sure.
And I heard you talk about like interning for Donner and Mankiewicz and everything. And it was after I heard you, like, after that interview, I went and bought Gates of Gotham and then sought out, I'm trying to remember, I think it was only the second year of the New 52, or technically first. It was like 2012, I think. Yep. And then I was like, and that's when I was like, okay, I went out and started reading the Nightwing then after hearing you talk on there.
Well, thank you for
So yeah, speaking of New 52 Nightwing, that's what we're here to talk about. I wanted to ask.
Really?
Really? Yeah. Yeah, it's not all Superman.
I'd rather talk about good Nightwing stories, but I guess.
I just reread your whole run, and trust me, you're one of the top stories in the New 52 to me.
If anyone's,
that's like saying that was the best. That was the best book of the Heroes Reborn line.
Oh no! I mean, a lot of New 52 wasn't my cup of tea, but I liked your stuff. You're up there with like Scott Snyder's Batman to me in that era.
Those two, you and Scott Snyder had the best, I think, take reinvention runs in the New 52. Green Lantern kind of just felt like it was the same, continue on with a few tweaks. Even as a big Superman fan, I really didn't like a lot of the Superman of the New 52 until like the very end when they were going to Rebirth. But Nightwing, that was my New 52 book.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like Batman,
Batman
and Green Lantern were basically.
I got every issue.
Yeah, Batman and Green Lantern were basically the same. But I mean, you came in and had to like bring Dick back to Nightwing because he had been Batman for like 2 years or something before that.
They took away all his friends.
Yeah, well, how in depth, how real of an answer do you want? I mean, what?
As real as you want to give.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, don't you still work for DC sometimes? So, nice, I guess.
I was gonna say that's up to you.
No, I would always be respectful, but everyone's gone. Everyone that was associated with New 52 is gone. So, it's also been like 10 years now. So, I've started to become a little more honest about the experience in recent, probably like the last year or so.
So maybe just to in a not ruin your career. Would you say like maybe your hands were tied a little bit in certain aspects? Maybe.
Is he glitching out for you guys?
Who? What?
Sorry.
Oh, I think he was just being quiet. You got to lean closer, Phil.
Oh. No. Your entire question glitched out.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. No, I was just asking. Do you think? Would you say your hands were kind of tied, maybe in certain respects, with that run?
Yeah, but my hands were tied for a variety of reasons, and they were not entirely outside factors. Like, you have to remember, like, I was 26 years old, and I had never written an ongoing series, much less a mini-series, when they gave me that book. And on top of that, he's my all-time favorite character, and they gave me the book. 5 days before they announced the entire New 52.
Wow!
So James Robinson was writing New 52 Nightwing.
Whoa!
And it didn't work out. And that's not my story to tell. So I'm not going to talk about school, but it didn't work out. And I was in New York. And I'd been in New York for like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Back then I used to go to New York and kind of turn it into like a work, like, just like, it wasn't a vacation, but I was like basically living and working. I was like staying with friends and then working out of the DC office at that time because they were really cool enough to let me do that. So I was writing, let's see if I remember this right. So I was writing Deathstroke. The first issue had gone over really, really well. And I was writing Gates of Gotham. And I was also writing Supreme Power for Marvel. So I was writing 2 miniseries, Gates of Gotham and Supreme Power, having never written a miniseries before. It was in the midst of both. And then I was also writing Deathstroke for 52. And everyone knew that Nightwing was my favorite. Dick Grayson was my favorite character. And I remember being... So this would have been June of 2011. and I was there for, it was either May or June. I was there for the launch of Gates of Gotham. So Snyder, Trevor McCarthy, and I did a big signing at Midtown Comics in the downtown location. It was like, it wasn't my first signing. It was definitely the first DC related signing. And so that had gone over really well. I was in the offices. So I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time since I thought about this. Oh, that's right. So one of the days I was in the offices, like early on, I'd never met Bob Harris before. I'd met Dan in passing. No. I'd met Dan several times by that point. But so Mike Marks was the Batman Group editor, myself, and I don't remember who else on the assistant editor front. We went out to lunch and came back, and it was like, I'm sorry, there goes my cat. I have to deal with this squirt bottle.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yep, some phone cables out. Mm-hmm. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for anyone watching or listening, I was just, before we got on air, I was talking about how my cat decides when I'm on Zooms to climb behind the computer and pull cables out, as you do, I suppose. So anyway, come back from this lunch, and I was, I think I had a margarita at lunch. It was a Friday. It was a late lunch, and I was working, but also like I'm a freelancer, and so they're like, yeah, you can have a margarita. I think the others might have as well. And you come back in the office, and from down the hall, Bob is like, oh, Kyle, come here. And I'm like, okay. So I walked down the hall to his office, and on his walls everywhere is concept art for every single character of the New 52. And we didn't know, like, we were all kind of in a bubble in our own. They kept us all very separate at that time at the start. So I didn't know, even though I was doing Deathstroke and Gates of Gotham in the Bat Office, like, I didn't know Gale was doing Batgirl. So they told me that. And then I definitely didn't know it was Barbara Gordon, Batgirl. But I'm seeing the design on the wall. I was like, holy cow, is that Barbara? With the red hair. But also, like, I just had a really nice margarita, and all of a sudden I'm trying to, like, keep my bearings of, like, it's just like a color explosion, like, inundating me all at once. And I the reason I tell the story is because I remember sitting there, and Bob's, like, walking me through things, and I'm like, and I'm just, like, trying to, like, keep my shit together, And then I'm going, where's Nightwing? Where is he? Because I want to see, like, because there's radically different designs everywhere for characters. Like, the Teen Titans were unrecognizable, And I'm like, oh no, where's Nightwing? What have they done to Nightwing? Where is he? And then I type him, and it's Cully Hamner's design, and it's the design that we use more or less in the book, but he's in the blue. He's got the blue wing and the black suit and everything. And I'm looking, I'm like, okay, they don't have the arm stripe down to the finger stripes, and there's no and the gauntlets are okay. I can live with those. Like, and I'm just looking at looking at this as a fan. I'm like, yeah. Okay, could be worse. I missed the sharp points on the. You can see it behind me. The sharp points on the collar or the collarbone. But I'm like, okay, great. So then I leave the office, and then I go into Bobby Chase's office, and Bobby, on her wall, are the same designs of Nightwing, because Nightwing was technically under her, and then she was under Marks in that office. And her designs are Red Nightwing. And I'm like, it's Red Nightwing, and he had a cape. And I was like, what's this? And she's like, oh, this is the Nightwing suit. And she's like, we're not sure on the cape yet, or they're not sure, or it was a little nebulous, but I was like, I don't have a great poker face when, like, something bothers me. And I was just like, he had red lenses, and I was like, I don't like this. Like, I'm not really feeling this. But at the time, again, I wasn't on the book. It wasn't my gig. It was James Robinson was doing it. And so a few days go by, and maybe a week. Like I said, I was there for about 2 weeks, and then I was heading home. And the day before I was heading home, I'd said goodbye to everyone, and I was just like at a friend's place in Long Island City. And I get this text from Mike Martz. And he goes, "Hey, dude, can you come back in the office today?" And I was like, "Well, I'm flying home tomorrow morning." And I'm flying home tomorrow morning, and he had to do that. So I was like, we already said goodbye to him. He's like, "Yeah, but I'm at, like, can you still come in?" And I was like, "Well, what is it?" And I remember his response. He goes, "Your dream job." And so I went in, and I was like, and it was like, I went into his office, and Bobby was sitting there, and I was like, so what's going on? And it, like I said, it didn't work out with James. And I guess Dan had come down to Mike's office and said, "Who are you thinking for Nightwing?" And Mike said, honestly, he goes, "Kyle would be my choice," and said a few other things, and Dan nodded. He said, "Good, he's my choice too." Because Dan knew how much I love the character. The thing was, like, all of Scott's plans for Batman had started as a Dick Grayson's Batman. So that's why a lot of those talent plans of, like, Nightwing's great-grandfather was William Cobb, the talent, because ultimately he was going to be, a Dick Grayson story. And when they started the New 52, or planning for the New 52, that was when the decision was made to bring Bruce back. And so Scott very wisely was able to kind of, not retrofit, but he was able to adjust and change the story to be a Bruce story, but he still wanted to keep that aspect of the talent backstory, which meant there would be a natural connection between Nightwing and Port of stuff, meaning Nightwing and Scott. And because of my relationship with Scott, I was already writing Dick Grayson and Gates of Gotham, and they knew how much I had an affinity for the character. That was kind of what went into the decision to do the book. But it also meant that things were massively behind schedule. So they were like, "We need 7 pages for Eddie to start drawing tomorrow morning."
Tomorrow morning?
I didn't have it taped. I didn't have, So here was my thing. My thing was so much of what Black Mirror did, and, like, the time of Dick Grayson as Batman, not only were we doing a microcosm of it in Gates, but every other book, and Grant especially, really explored, and definitely Scott and Black Mirror, the idea that, like, hey, I'm Dick Grayson, I don't feel great, like, in Gotham, I don't feel like I belong here. And then ultimately overcoming that and going, like, hey, okay, but, like, now I've set down roots, and now I am confronting these great, not fears, but, like, threats, challenges, whatever, that the city is throwing back at me.
The hunger.
And, yeah. And so my whole thing was, like, you can't move him out of Gotham now. Like, that's the whole point. Like, everything he just went through, if you move him, then there's no character growth there at all. What's more interesting to me is you keep him there, and, like, he's just him again. Like, he puts on the Nightwing mantle. Like, and what I kept but what I kept putting out there to whoever who listened was, like, we as fans often want our characters to be thought of or positioned or treated like A-list characters, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the natural kind of thinking that some people have is like, well, Dick Grayson will never be A-list until he's Batman. And now he's Batman, and now he's going to be B-list again because he's Nightwing. It's like, that's his mantle. Like, he doesn't think of Batman as, like, well, if only I could be Batman one day, like
Right.
he's his own guy. So that's you're mapping that predisposition to him that I don't think in universe he would have. He was doing Bruce a solid. He's filling in as Batman because Gotham needs a Batman, and now Bruce is back. But the challenges that Gotham has thrown at Dick are his own, and so Dick's not going to run away from those. Not at this point in his life. And I say that because James is all I really knew about James's take was that he was moving to San Francisco.
Oh.
But I don't know. I never read the script. Like, I don't know what that book was going to be, other than he's in San Francisco, and I'm pretty sure he had a butler.
Wait, San Francisco and what?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had a butler in San Francisco. I feel like I heard that.
What?
Yeah, but again, and it could have been amazing, but it just wasn't. Look, it didn't work out, and then it's also not something that I really dug. So it was like, well, I'm definitely not going to do that because it didn't, as status quo, because it didn't work out. So I scripted those first. I wrote like plot style, like those first like 7 pages for any stuff. But that idea, I've never told this before, so you guys are the first to do this. That meeting where I sat down and they were like, "Well, we do this tomorrow." Everyone was we were all getting along very, very well, and talking about like, this could be, and obviously my relationship with Scott, and like that was going to be good, and it's not really. And then Bobby floated like the second, okay, let's change his name. He was like, "Well, we're changing it to Daywin." She's like, "No, Rick." And I was like, "Rick?" So the idea of Ric Grayson goes back to 2011.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And by the way,
I'm so
I say that with absolutely no. I have feelings on that, and I have opinions, but I say that with no judgment whatsoever. Like, the point of the New 52 was, as the Phil or Tyler, I'm blanking on which one of you said this before, but like when you were talking about Green Lantern and some of it got really muddy because you had certain talent on legacy titles, and legacy not in characters' legacy, but in their own writing legacy. So all of the continuity stood for Jeff Johns' books. Well, except for Justice League, he did go outside himself and really reinvent that for the New 52. But all that Green Lantern continuity, all that stood.
Mm-hmm.
All of Grant's Batman continuity, all that stood, because Grant was going to still write what became what we have incorporated at that point.
Yeah.
So, so on the one hand, like the mandate to editorial, and like Bobby hadn't worked on books in quite a few years. I mean, she was a big deal at Marvel. She was a editor at Marvel.
Yeah.
I believe in the 80s and 90s, and she was co-editor-in-chief at one point. But she'd been out of comics, and so she came back really for the New 52. And the idea and what they had said was like, you don't have to know continuity because you're getting rid of it. Like, so it's about finding ways to reinvent these characters in a timely, contemporary fashion. And there was this like weird point of like, no one names their kid Dick anymore. And I said, and no one names him Clark or Bruce either. But
I tried.
We're not.
I tried. I tried.
If I ever had a son, I'm 100% naming him Richard, but it's a good thing that I'll probably never have children because he would be mocked.
I tried for Grayson, but she wouldn't go for it.
I've had students name that, both girls and boys, actually.
It's a good name.
Janea would have went with
Richard,
that one.
but
She would have went with Grayson. She would have went there.
Well, and that was my thing too. It's like, well, then wouldn't it then be Rich or Richard? Like, I don't know how you get Rick out of Richard, but I guess that's what some people.
Richard has so many.
So was the Rick thing? So you said Ric Grayson. The idea was floating around in 2011. So was it like, were they trying to reboot the character, or were they gonna? Was it like what they were just doing not too long ago with the amnesia thing, or?
No.
I think it was just a name change, right?
It was just a name change.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just going to go by a different name. And that's where the red
It's Rick. He wears red.
What's that?
He's Rick. He wears red, double R's, just all that alliterations. Red Rick,
Well,
that was not a factor.
Well, that's the other rumor. I don't know if you know either way, but the rumor I heard is they put him in the red just because all the other Robins were in red, Red Hood, Red Robin, even Damian was wearing red. No.
I mean, that could have been a factor, but I was there. I was there for this. Like, they wanted, the reason the red happened, it was twofold. Well, before I get to that.
Okay.
Wait, yeah, before you get to that, so you saved his name, you said no, it needs to stay Dick.
I didn't save it. I mean, I was like, okay, and I asked Mike later, I was like, we're not doing that, are we? And his exact words were, it'll never be approved.
But see, I think he's too famous as Dick. I mean, like, even your grandma knows. Youthful War, Dick Grayson.
Yeah, Batman
like,
66.
And that's exactly why it didn't get approved. But it was in the ether. It was a conversation. Like, Bob was a really big fan and proponent of that. And again, I say that with I love Bob. There's no judgment there. I didn't agree. But I understand why that was coming up.
Yeah.
And just getting back to my original point before we got a little sidetracked here, just as I bring up the Green Lantern and continuity stuff, the thing was, like, editorial, and I can say this looking back on it now, like, there was such mixed mandates going on because on the one hand, you're going, reinvent these characters and reinvent some whole cloth. And so, like, Teen Titans was under Bobby as well. Teen Titans was radically different, right? But then certain Bat characters, the closer they got to Batman himself, the less they were really able to be changed. So because the Batman continuity had to stand. So you got this really weird amalgamation of, like, is it a squint, and I guess it kind of fits, like, but I'll say this. I wrote Nightwing and Deathstroke at the same time for 8 months, okay, for 8 issues before I was fired off Deathstroke. I could not have them meet because I could not figure out if they knew each other.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the thing. So a lot of this stuff and some of the weird things that happened in New 52 happened really, everyone was coming at it with the best of intentions, but sometimes, like, those intentions, like, the more that people tried to hold on to the past, the more muddy things got. But at the same time, I know why you're holding on to the past. And, like, the past is one of DC's best qualities and aspects. Like, they have these legacy characters and these mantles. And so it was just a really weird time to come in and to do book. And so the reason the red happened then was really twofold. So Cully Hamner did the redesigns, and a lot of the redesigns for the New 52. And Cully, like myself, loved that Brian Stelfreeze costume. And Brian's a really good friend of Cully's. Like, Cully was there when Brian designed that costume in the 90s. And Cully's going, it's a perfect design. Like, what do you change it to? Like, it's iconic. It's perfect. And so the idea of, like, well, we change the color is a way, it was the illusion of a more sizable reinvention, visual change than what was really actually going on. But then 2 other things happened. Grant had wanted him to have a cape, and that was part of Grant's pitch. I don't know if that's ever been out there, but, like, that was part of Grant's pitch for either Batman Incorporated or... No, I think it was, actually. Like, going into the New 52, he's going, like, Dick's going to become Nightwing again. But as a way to visually show he has changed as a result of his experience as Batman, he takes on a cape. And I only half-jokingly definitely made a reference to him. I was like, so you guys want to do full-on Chris O'Donnell, huh? Like, that's what you want to do here? But so the cape didn't make it. The red, I mean, it came down to the day before the book was going to be announced. Actually, I got an email. I made it as clear as I could up front. I was like, the blue is better. The blue is, please don't do this. Like, the blue is the way to go. But I'm a 26-year-old, like, kid writing my first big book. Like, you're only going to push so hard. And then I got an email, and it was from, and I was just an email I was CC'd on, from Rod Reese. Rod was the colorist, and he and I have done a lot of books together since. And it was the cover for issue 1, but he was colored blue. Or, I can't remember which one came through first. Because one came through and I was like, oh, so we're doing the blue? And then they wrote back, they're like, oh, wait, no, it's supposed to be red. And then another email came and went like, wait, no, hold on. Jim said yesterday he had a different thought. Hold on. And it was like this Schrodinger's Nightwing moment for like a solid 6 or 7 minutes where I was like, is it blue or is it red? Like, it literally could go either way here. And ultimately it came back, and it I don't want to say it was actually a coin flip, but it did come down to the wire where they were like, yeah, let's do the red, it's different. So that's really how it just happened. And then I spent 3 years of my life fighting to try to get the blue back, to the point where I probably burned a lot of goodwill and capital. And then we did get it approved. He was going to put on the blue and black when I moved to Chicago, and I had a great reason for it. And then in the 11th hour, it came down that, we can't do it. And so they had to hand it down outside the public issue. Back to the Red Sea.
So just change for the sake of change.
Yeah, and I get it. That's the thing. Like, I get it. I didn't love it. It's not my.
Yeah.
Comics are about the illusion. Comics are about the illusion of change. So, just changing the color. I can't see how it looks like a big deal when it's mostly the same costume.
Yeah, I mean, but my
it was a big deal, though.
No, it was. I mean, my whole point. I mean, Jeff and I bonded over that. It was like, I remember when I saw Jeff. I mean Jeff forever, but like when I first saw Jeff after I got the gig, I'd flown back from Chicago. So I went from New York to Chicago and stayed with my parents for a little bit, and then I flew back to LA. So it must have been May. I must have been in New York in May, because I go to Chicago, they announced the series, the New 52 and everything. Then I flew back to LA the day before my birthday, and Dick Donner was giving a talk at a big film festival in Hollywood. And during that festival, Dan DiDio and Jim Lee were going to also speak about this crazy new initiative that was just announced. And so I went. And then Jeff was there too. Jeff had been Dick's assistant, a lifetime ago. Not lifetime, like early 2000s, late 90s. And so we're all like sitting around, and like somebody said something, and Nightwing came up, and Jeff looks at me and he goes, "You should be blue." And I was like, yeah, he should. And that like caught Jeff off guard. Like he expected that I was like gonna argue with him over like something that's like visually fundamental to the character. And but so like we very much bonded over that. But again, it's like in a situation like that, like a decision's made. You have to respect that the decision was made, and ultimately, whoever made it, that was their decision to make. And so there was a lot of that kind of going on as well. And but my whole thing was like, in a medium where you don't have actors and performances to rely on or to create an identity for a character, it's so hard to create continuity and like cohesion from one creative team to the next, where it's actually the same character. Because every artist is going to draw a character differently. So like one artist drawing Dick Grayson's face is going to be different than another artist drawing Dick Grayson's face. The superhero costume is the thing that unifies them. And the second you put Dick Grayson in black and red, he looks like everything else. And so that was always my argument. It was like, but that the color is important because it is the visual that it is associated with Nightwing. Whereas black and red, I don't know if I'm looking at Batwoman, I don't know if I'm looking at Batman Beyond, I don't know if I'm looking at the Hood, like a Robin, like I'm just not sure.
The Flying Graysons were blue.
Yeah. Well, that was actually how I was justifying putting them back in blue and black. The original script in issue, whatever it was, I think it was 19 when we lived in Chicago. You know, he's broke, he's got 2 pennies to his name, he's got 2 pennies in a Nightwing suit to his name, but this one comes in Flying Grayson blue. That was the line. And he was there trying to hunt down Tony Zuko. So it all, like, thematically felt, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I got to compliment you now when you're like, oh, I had like 5 days. I mean, the whole thing with the circus in the first arc and then Tony Zuko later. I'm like, man, he's been thinking about this for a while.
Well, yeah, actually the circus wasn't me. The circus was Bobby and Kate Kubert. In that they wanted it in the book. And I didn't want the circus. And it's so funny to think about it now, and that really like speaks to how much, you know, as you get older, the more you write, the more you start to recognize what is unique to a character and how to like lean into that. Because I think back on it now, and then I was like, this is the least interesting aspect of the character. I don't want to do big top circus. Like, who wants to do that? Who wants to read that? And yet, the circus is so unique and fundamental to him. And what I think about a lot now is, like, if I could do it over, what I would have done, and I did get into the circus, like, in the idea of it, the possibilities eventually, but, like, if I could do it over, I would have reinvented the circus, too. Like, if I were doing it now, I would have turned it into a Cirque Soleil type, something a little more contemporary, that still had an emphasis on acrobatics. But, you know, like I said, it's my first book, and I was just, just trying to keep my head above water half the time. And there were so many different notes coming from all different directions.
What was the introduction of Sonia Zuko your idea? Was that an angle that you went with?
Yeah, but I didn't do it for a little while.
Well, didn't Scott have her, or was that a different character?
Well, she's in Black Mirror. We're going to get to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in Black Mirror. I knew I wanted to use her, though. What really became tricky was that Scott and I were on very different playing fields. So, like, Scott was... sorry, my cat is driving me crazy. Scott was kind of... Scott was the heir apparent. You know, like, Scott, even at that point, coming off the heat of Black Mirror, in his detective run, it's Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo launching a new Batman #1, and Marks is editing it directly. So, like, when Scott is pitching, like, I'm going to do an 11-part story, DC, sorry guys, this is literally my life.
It's okay.
It's funny.
So, when Scott was pitching doing what became Court of Owls, he's like, it's going to be 11 parts. And Scott likes to structure big, long stories like that at a time when DC especially was looking to do shorter stories. So Scott was going to get to the William Cobb, Dick Grayson connection in issue 7, which meant I couldn't really do all that much until issue 7. So it became this little bit of a puzzle where it was like, I can't tread water for 7 months, but this is going to be foundational to Batman, and I do need to support that. Can I build a villain that, you know, and I mean, you guys have read it, so that's what ultimately kind of like happened. But it just meant, like, all the time, like, you know, Bobby was always like, this is taking too long, Kyle. Like, you got to, you know, it's like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, he's got this point that's going to hit 7, like, either, like, and then when we decided early on we wanted to write the same scene. We wanted to co-write that scene for the reveal. But that scene in Batman is like 8 pages or 9 pages or something like that. And at that point, you know, Bobby would, like, her note all the time to me was like, well, no, you have 2 pages in a row of dialogue. this is you can't do 3 in a row. I was not allowed to do conversation scenes that lasted 3 pages. It had to be 2 pages max. So we get to that issue, and it's like, yeah, you're not getting 8 pages from this. So if you actually look at it, like, I actually like found a way to read, and I'm actually really proud of it. I actually do think that scene in particular in the solution, I don't think she was wrong there at all. 8 pages of the same exact, Ryan Perich and I have done it now in Power Rangers, where we wrote the same scene from 2 points of view. And it's so funny that I did it 2 years ago for the first time since I did it almost 10 years ago. And when I was doing it 2 years ago, I'm going like, this is too long. How do we find a way? Because like people are paying a lot of money for a book these days. And if all of a sudden they're reading, it feels like they're reading the exact same content as the book they also just paid $4 for or whatever, $3 for. It doesn't like creatively, it's really exciting to us to do, but like from a reader's standpoint, it's like, well, I could have just bought one book. I didn't need to buy both of them. So I get it. But yeah, that was constantly a conversation. It's like you're just talking too much, and the clown be juggling in the background. Sure, like, it's just like stuff like that. So it was an experience, yeah.
And I was going to say, and I'm sure it's like an extra hurdle to get over. Does it hurt your story? Do you think like maybe just the momentum, maybe to the crossovers, like Death of the Family, 0 Year, stuff like that?
There are blessings and curse. On the positive side, well, on the negative side, sure, you could say that, but I never looked at it that way. I looked at it a little bit differently. I approached it a little bit differently too. So I looked at it, just purely from a sales standpoint. When you're a part of a crossover, your book's going to sell. And the way that comics really work, monthly superhero books, is it's all about like staving off the rate of attrition. So like your book every month is going to go down in sales numbers. That just is what happens. So you're constantly trying to like curb that dip. When you do an event or a crossover or a big status quo change, that's a way to boost numbers, and it kind of resets some of that attrition, at least for a little while, right? So it's constantly a little bit of that game. So being a part of those crossovers was a way to definitely get more eyes on my book that month. And also, I love collaborating on that stuff. It's fun. And working with Scott, like, Scott and I are still pretty close. And, we don't really talk story that much anymore just because we have very separate careers now. But we approach story very, very, very similarly. It's what makes us really good collaborators. The plus side of it, for me, when I was in it, the way I looked at it was, okay, I know I've got to be a part of this. I want to be a part of Court of Owls. I want to be a part of Death of the Family. So what I did, Death of the Family is probably the best iteration of this, where rather than going, oh shit, in a few months, my whole arc is going to be interrupted by this event, instead I went, it's a feature, not a bug. Mm-hmm. Why don't I build the emotional arc in a way where the event is the culmination of it, and it pays off emotionally? So Death of the Family is tearing down the circus. It's tearing down Amusement Mile and this thing that Dick is trying to build in order to bring hope back to Gotham and light back into this kind of dark city. And the Joker tearing that down is the culmination of that story and that arc. So I was able to use the event to pay off things I was already doing. And Ryan and I had similar conversations when we were doing Shattered Grid a few years ago. And that was the advice I gave to him. So like, build it in a way where like the storyline you're telling for the Shattered Grid event is also the culmination of what you've been building. So it, in the series unto itself. So it doesn't feel like your book has been interrupted by this event. It feels like a very natural progression in that. So, but it did get to be a bit much. So what I remember now that I think about it specifically was we had Death of the Family, and that was issues 14 and 15. No, 15 and 16. And then, so I was writing issues 15 and 16 for Eddie Barrows. Andres Guinaldo drew issues 13 and 14, which I didn't write because they brought in Tom DeFalco for those 2 issues, which is a whole other story. So I'm writing issues 15 and 16 for Eddie Barrows. Juan Jose, they knew that Eddie wasn't going to stand the book anymore, and they were going to bring in Brett Booth. And that was going to be for issue. Juan Jose Rip was going to draw issues 17 and 18. And here's where it gets crazy. So I'm writing the Death of the Family 2 issues. No, I was writing issue 15. That's what it was. I was writing issue 15 for Death of the Family for Eddie Barrows. I was also writing issue 17 for Juan Jose Rip. And I was writing issue 19 for Brett Booth. So I was writing for 3 different artists, part 1 of their storyline, essentially. And I had to figure out and make sure it was all going to track. The problem was Grant is going to do what Grant wants to do. And so Grant was killing Damian. And he was killing Damian right around the same time with Death of the Family, but they weren't going to be connected. Mm-hmm. And I was the first person, schedule-wise, that was slated to write the aftermath of Damian in Nightwing, in the Nightwing script. Except I didn't know how he died. So it was like, what are we doing here? I don't really quite know what to do. And so it was like, well, write it and let's see what Grant does, and then we can adjust. I'm like, okay. So I do. Or maybe it wasn't even that. I think I wrote it and we got the approval. And then it was like all good. But it was also like, man, I just did this event, Death of the Family, and now I have to pay service to Damian, which I don't mind. I mean, I love that character. But in the New 52, it's still unclear, like, it's not going to happen. Like, we could never explicitly say, even though it did. So it's like Damian and Dick had this relationship. Like, I definitely need to find a way to acknowledge this without shining too bright a light on their relationship, because that feels like we're looking backwards rather than looking forwards, which is what the Band-Aid always was. And so I turned in the script and everything. It's all good. And I just randomly end up at this party in Los Angeles one night, and it was a party for it was Legendary was throwing the movie studio, and Thomas Tull, who was still running Legendary at the time, was going. And he had brought in like a one-man Lord of the Rings performer, like flew in from New Zealand. He was like at the house. He was at the House of Blues on Sunset. And there were arcade games, and it was fully catered, and it was incredible. Like, it was just this awesome, deep, just kind of hangout. And I turned, and there's Grant. And I was like, I thought you were in Scotland. You live in Scotland. He's like, no, it's good. My time in Los Angeles right now. It's my awful Grant. And so we're talking as we're in line at a buffet. We're both getting food and everything, and talking. He's like, hey, I was like, I just turned in the script and everything. Oh, that's great, that's great. I'm not going to try to do a Scottish accent for this part, but you can consider what that awful. You can edit this out, right? Yeah. So I said to him, I was like, yeah, no, I think it turned out really well. I'm really proud of it. And he goes, yeah, well, it will definitely, of all people, it's going to hit Dick the hardest because he's there when Damian dies and he can't save him. What? yeah. I was like, he's there.
I kind of wish I'd known that.
So I text Marks from the party. I was like, hey, I just ran into Grant. And Mike's like, I just got the script from him today. And yeah, so I was like, okay, how do we do this? And honestly, I don't remember. I haven't looked at that stuff in 10 years. Like, I don't even know what I did. For those issues, but yeah, so those were. But you also have to keep in mind, because I don't know if it sounds like I'm reading here, but like I don't mean to be. Like, that is just the reality of writing and sharing. Sometimes that happens. I would get notes sometimes, like on Friday. My favorite story to tell is like issue 4 with Nightwing back. I really felt, and everyone felt like I really found a groove. And part of it was I was doing it with Trevor, just on dates together. Trevor was, I love Eddie Barrows to death. I love his art. He wasn't a great fit for the type of Nightwing that I wanted to make, which was high energy, very kinetic. Scott McDaniel-esque, and Trevor was. But had it there been 6 more months before they were going to start New 52, they probably would have had Trevor do Nightwing because of what we did with Scott. It's such a natural progression. That's not what happened. So, but Trevor did the fill-in in issue 4, and we just went kind of like balls to the wall with this awesome story, and it was also Dick and Barbara's relationship. And there's this moment where she's giving him a hard time, and he smiles and he smirks, and you turn the page and it's a splash page of them soaring over South Beach. Big smile on his face. It's like, yeah, and it's on page 2 of the too. And on Friday, it was like 3 p.m. in New York, so it was like noon in LA. I get this call, and they're like, hey, so Danny just read the issue, and he thinks there needs to be, like, there's something about Dick and Barbara's relationship where like, we really need to, like, recontextualize it for readers and make it clear that we never dated. It was something like that. And so it was like, that's the place to do it. So you have to write voiceover for this whole sequence. And you can't change any of the art because it's going to the printer in 2 hours. So you have 25 minutes to do this.
Oh, jeez.
And it was like, okay. And it's just like, zero in and like figure out how to. So that would happen sometimes where it's just like figuring out a way to like write a new story to fit existing art. And that happens a lot in comics. So.
I mean, I guess so. What?
It's stressful.
So what you're saying is like continuity is like a double-edged sword. You know, you might have helped sell some Batgirl books, or maybe Gail helped you sell some Nightwing books. But it's like you really can't. If Barbara's in your book, you really can't go radical with her character because Gail's doing something with her over there. And...
Yeah, but I wouldn't anyway. That's not.
Yeah. But I just mean you can't, like, if you wanted Dick and Barbara together, there would have to be talks with a lot of people.
No. I would have to be more. I would have to be a bigger deal.
You'd have to get what?
I would have to be a bigger deal. A bigger name.
Okay.
Right. I would need to have more like line control.
So Scott Snyder could put them together.
Yes. But yeah, like
every business has these hierarchies.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote an annual that was Dick and Barbara.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the details enough, but I know that a similar thing happened in the 11th hour, where it was like I had to completely blow up the ending and had to rewrite that ending once the art was done. I think we might have gotten an art patch for it, but it was like threading the world's finest needle. It was like they never dated. I don't remember. Like I have it all still. Like I have the original. I have the old. I keep everything. I'm sure I can find it.
I feel like it's very unclear in New 52 if they dated or not. I think they keep trying to keep it ambiguous.
I think Gail, and that's something like Gail had more, she had more power and sway than I did, for sure. So like there were certain things I feel like she was able to push across the plate. And she was also like, I'm sure she was far more politically savvy than me. Especially back then, because I was just starting out. And that was what was so hard and frustrating for me. Is like I felt like, man, like this is my dream job, and I'm just not proud of the books that are coming out. It's like I'm never going to get to do this again. This was my one shot, and it's like, how do I do it? And that's a pretty, I don't know. It's a little bit of it's a selfish and also naive way to look at it as well. So. Luckily, I got over it.
Sure. I imagine it's probably particularly hard since you are such a fan of the character. There's so many things you would want to do, and you feel so personal. And I guess it's something that I'm always learning every time Phil brings in someone for us to interview. I tend to think of, when I think of writing, I think of a novel. And of course, you have complete control in a novel because it's your characters and they're doing what you want, and you end it when you end it. And comics are not that at all.
Well,
not the big problem.
I mean, maybe a little bit, but you don't have complete control, and you can't necessarily. And you need to keep it going.
It depends on what we're talking about. Like, are we talking about creator-owned comics, or are we talking about
like Cal?
Cal, yeah.
Yes, I guess I'm referring to like a Nightwing comic, like a superhero, like a legacy, like a Batman Nightwing legacy.
Marvel, you couldn't do that in a novel either. Like, you would have to be like they have their own challenges. I've never tried to write a novel. I've always been afraid of it because it's so many words. But the one big plus to it is it is the closest thing, I would argue, aside from going from person to person and telling them a story, is the closest thing to a direct connection from your brain to a viewer or a reader, because it's just words on a page. Comics are a close second because it's you and a collaborator, unless you're a cartoonist or you're doing it all yourself. But comics can be so pure. Even big two superhero books, they can be so pure. Grant likes to say that they're mainlining. They're all first drafts. Comics are all first drafts, and it's like you're just mainlining the good stuff, And there is something to be said for that, even on big two superhero stuff, So it's just, I don't know, like, in a weird way, I have a lot of fond memories for it, and I got to come back and do Nightwing Order, which I'm really proud of. So, like, it's a little bittersweet, for sure.
Well, I was going to ask, what is your favorite Nightwing? Oh, I'd say, what is your favorite Dick Grayson thing that you wrote?
That I wrote?
That you wrote. Yeah.
I really like Nightwing Order. I like it because it was an opportunity. I took some big chances, and so much of that story was, and the narration from his son Jake, looking back, was me going, how I love this character, Dick Grayson. How could we possibly believe this? And that it scared me. The concept and what the natural implications of the concept would be scared me. It scared me as a fan of that character. And because I was a little older and I had been writing professionally longer at that point, I was able to recognize that fear and go, that's exactly why you should do it. And turn that into what the point of the narrative is. And I remember when I told Dan DiDio thematically what the book was going to be. I distinctly remember summing it up saying, like, this is a story about how even really good people can come to believe really terrible things. And Dan looked at me and he goes, "That's great." And that was like, and I really distilled it down. And so I'm very, very proud of that. But you know what? Oh, actually, I've got a different one. I've got the number one thing that I am so proud of more than anything else is something I came up with it halfway through my run, and I sat on it until my final issue. And it's the narration where he says, it's not about cities and supervillains or costumes or whatever it was. He goes, for me, all of this boils down to, it's much simpler than that. I grew up in a traveling circus. It's always been about catching people when they fall.
Oh, yeah, that's a good line.
And that line, that summation, that distillation of the character says everything for me. I remember I'm reading an interview with Jeff years ago where he was like, Dick Grayson's the guy who, save you from a mugger, tie your shoe and buy you a beer. And to me, there's such a level of empathy there that, of course, Bruce has as well, but it's a little closed off at times. But Dick Grayson is like that. The catching people when they fall is such a just a great. I think it says everything about that character, especially with the background. So I'd probably say that.
I was gonna ask something. I don't know, raise my hand. But what was it like? My sound went out a minute ago, so if I repeat anything, I apologize. What was it like writing Dick Grayson when you did Batman Beyond 2.0?
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was a lot of fun too. That one, I am really, really proud of that Batman Beyond run. It was interesting because it was a little bit of a weird one. Adam Beechin had written the Hush Beyond story arc for Batman Beyond. I think that was the first Batman Beyond comic that they actually did. And so he introduced, that future DCEU version of Dick Grayson, and he gave him the eye patch and everything. And there was some stuff in there that I was like, it's not what I would have done, but I also that was what the character was,
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, okay, well, I guess this is what he's going to look like, and it's fine. It's not what my preference, it's not what I would have done. But so I was trying to. There were certain elements, and the Joe Chill stuff. Again, I never would have done. I never would have hear that. I understand why Adam did. It was a good story, and I did find. I found a way to use it later. But I was looking to just do pure DC animated continuation. So there, little things like that were just kind of little wrinkles. Where it's okay, I got to figure out a way to kind of animate those. But that core premise of Dick Grayson in the Bruce mentorship role, where he's a little more gruff and a little more grizzled than we've seen him in the past, but he still makes quips, is just straight up Dick Grayson to me. I could hear Lauren doing that voice for that, and that always made me smile. So that was a lot of fun.
Well, did you see what Dan Jurgens is doing with Dick in his Batman Beyond right now?
No,
Dick's the mayor of Gotham City. It kind of works. He's older. Of course he's older. He has a daughter. I don't think they've even said who the mother is yet, because it's not
so
hard.
Funny. I love Dan. That's really funny to me though, because Dan has pulled a bunch of my stuff actually. Dan did all the Talon stuff that I was kind of building, and then I did that splash in my final issue of what Dick Grayson could have been, which was as the Talon assassin. Dan did all that. I created the Rewired character in Batman Beyond 2.0. Dan then used him, even though it makes no sense because the Rewired character is specific to the DC animated version of Batman. But then I saw he's just showing up in the main DC universe, Batman Beyond Dan's doing, as if they were the same. And I was yes, they are. Okay. And then I had a whole thing about Dick Grayson and a relationship with the mayor that I was going to do in Chicago. In that run to that. So that's a funny little coincidence that he's doing as the mayor. Is that book still going on? I thought that book was canceled.
I think it's ending at 50. I think he has an issue or two left of it. Yeah.
Okay. I don't keep up. Actually, that is the one. That's the one. I can't. It's kind of like trying to stay friends with an ex-girlfriend.
I was gonna ask. That's what Devin said too. Devin, she said, just like an ex. I wish him well, but I can't read it after I leave.
Same. Yeah. I Marv Wolfman said that to me. And
maybe that's where she got it too.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think, or maybe I got it from Devin, because Devin and I spoke when I was on the book. She was really helpful a few times, especially when I was really struggling.
All right, we'll wrap up soon because I promised you an hour conversation. But I mean, okay, you're not keeping up on the books, but
Really?
have you watched the Titan series at all?
No.
No.
It's his ex. He can't be stalking
want
him
the comics,
on social
but I mean,
media.
Unless I'm doing it, I don't. Because it's just the Titan show is a weird one as well. Because like I would have loved to do it, but it's also like there was no way in a million years I ever would have been considered for that show as a writer. So that it just like stings even more. It's just like I don't know. Do people? Is it good? I haven't seen.
It's too gritty for me.
Okay.
Yeah, they do try to do gritty.
But I mean, I don't know if that like means anything. I mean, I'm the guy. I was gonna say when you were talking about the Batman Beyond, I think you had a excellent answer that's in the book. Because I kind of the Batman Beyond kind of stresses me out because Dick and Bruce are not really very friendly in that, and I like it even though they've had their issues. That's one of the things I like about main continuity is they're still friend, father, son, whatever. And you were like, well, that's really the best. And you were saying that's really the best way to get drama because you have such a smaller world. And I was like, oh, that all makes sense.
They get along in my Batman Beyond.
All right, that's good. I guess I'm thinking of like the TV show where he never showed up, and it was like, what's going on?
Yeah,
they must
that is
not like each other.
That is one regret I have about the Batman Beyond one was I don't regret the Dick, Barbara, Bruce storyline in doing it. I regret one aspect of it, how I executed it. But the thing is, like, I would never have. The show established that dynamic that, like, Bruce and Barbara had a relationship,
right? Which is weird.
It is, and I would I would not done it except the show had done it. So it's like, well, I'm going to play that out, and I'm going to mine it for hopefully some emotional and thematic drama, and more importantly, answers. Because once we got the answers at the end of during Return of the Joker, like my feeling was anytime that Batman Beyond appeared after Return of the Joker, it just wasn't as exciting because you got all the answers of what happened, and they were incredible. So my whole thing on the book was like, I want to bring that sense of like, what the hell went down back to this title, or back to this character, into this world. And the best way I thought of to do it was move things forward a year, and it's Dick and actually Terry, and Bruce and Terry had a big falling out, and then that naturally moved back into like what actually happened with Dick and Bruce, because Dick was never in the show, and Barbara, and it was like, well, I know what that looks like. I can see how to make that work dramatically. But I kind of treated them almost like a divorced couple, Bruce and Dick in the book. They're like a divorced couple who like just so much time has gone by that it just doesn't. The things that they were angry about just don't matter, So it's like there's a lot of history there. There's also a lot of love there as well, and so like the things that Dick was mad at Bruce about were a lifetime ago. That's how I treated it. So sorry guys, I feel like I just kind of rambled at you for an hour.
Man, that was awesome.
People are here to
I learned so much.
Yeah, we learned a lot of secrets, and I mean, people are here to hear you, not us this time. Coming.
Well, yeah, I mean, do you guys are there other questions you guys had that I
want to say, have you worked on anything outside of comics as far as like working on a new short film or anything? I remember you when you talked about The League, like I went and got it from iTunes and watched it and enjoyed it. And then your little Shattered Grid little like trailer film you made. Have you worked on anything else or planning on anything? Or
yeah, I mean, I did this big. I did a big new short a few years ago called Shadow Hours, and it's online, theshadowhours.com. But there's a big feature. I shouldn't say big, but there's a feature in the works for me to direct, and we landed. I wrote the feature screenplay as well. And we landed an awesome producer who's made some of my favorite movies, actually. And we just landed our lead actor, who is one of my all-time favorite actors. So that's been really trippy and weird and amazing. to start going through the scripts together and just getting to know each other. So that's hopefully next year if the world doesn't.
Awesome.
And then what else? Yeah, I had a movie announced last year actually, but just with everything going on, COVID, I don't think it's going to work with that particular studio. So we have the rights back for Adrian's Wall. But that's still in the works. And then I've got a bunch of stuff coming up. Some in comics and some not in comics.
All right.
Very close to being able to
I was going to say,
about.
if there's any comics or anything else you want to promote, please do.
I'm trying to think. I'm just doing Ultraman right now for Marvel.
Oh yeah.
And then I have some new. I have the Kickstarter going, and then I have a new creator-owned book that we're going to announce next month. Actually. So.
And if you have anything you want to, want me to add to the show notes, just send it to me, and I'll add links or whatever to the show notes. So.
Well, actually, speaking of Nightwing, they're putting out the omnibus of my New 52 run, which is pretty cool. And that'll be out, I think, December 1st. And
I pre-ordered it already.
Oh, good. Well, that it was funny because when you guys emailed me to do this, I could just put the finishing touches on all the copy and everything that I either wrote or tweaked or whatever. And they let me pick a bunch of the art for the flap jackets, and so that was really, really cool. I got to pick some of the quotes. Now, having said that, they then laid off the entire collected editions division. So I actually don't know if all of the stuff that I contributed, if they're going to use it. I don't know, because the person who would have shepherded it through is no longer there. So I'm actually not even sure. I'm not even sure what the cover art is going to be now. So we'll see.
All the previews they have.
Yeah, but that could change, couldn't it?
The cover art, on all the things I've seen, this is the cover art.
I know, but that was placeholder.
Right. That's the placeholder? Okay.
The conversations we had were about doing the issue 1 cover, this one.
With the blue. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll do the remastered edition where we recolor every issue. But I don't know. I don't know if that's what.
Well, I'm a little bummed that Nightwing never
December.
got a adult comic book or adult coloring book treatment. Because I bought Court of Owls had one, and I would have liked Nightwing to have one. It would have been cool.
Nightwing
Then I
in the
could
Court of Owls coloring book?
No, that's what I'm saying. We've bought Mad Love, the Court of Owls graphic novel. There was a Batgirl one, but there was no direct Nightwing story coloring book. I wish there had been. So I could color it blue,
Yeah.
There you go. Or you could color him half red and half blue, like it's Sleeping Beauty Nightwing.
I just
Make it pink.
I have this.
Nice.
I have to be careful how I say this, but I have a book coming up, and I wrote a line and reviewed blue, color scheme. And I didn't even think about this. And there's there's a bad guy version of red. And there's a line in the book where one of the supporting characters goes, "Yeah, maybe there's another one that's red. It looks like you but red." And my one of my ex-girlfriends, who I was with over the time I was writing Nightwing, she and I are still good friends, and so I sent her this to read, and she texted me a screenshot of that, just with just crying, laughing. It's like, this made me snort out loud. I'm looking at me because it's a weird. She was there for all of the Nightwing color of the costume, and so I guess I haven't. I guess I still have some issues to work out. Really, subconsciously working into.
Before we go, I was going to ask, when Nightwing wrapped up, were you ever considered for Grayson, or like how did that ending? Did Forever Evil, were they like, hey, we're doing this and it's going to change? Were you? Because you wrote until the end, and then it was like, then you were done, and I didn't know if.
I have to be careful how I.
Oh, all right, sorry.
It was not my choice to leave. But I've been doing it for almost 3 years.
Wait, can you lean a little closer? It's hard for me to hear you.
Oh, really? Sure. It was not my choice to leave, but I had been in the book for almost 3 years, and I didn't know what was coming. But the day before San Diego Comic Con, they ran Bloody Night as advertisements. And so, I'm writing a book. I feel like I should know who it is, right? Like, you guys tell me, right? And I just couldn't get an answer. And then I was San Diego. Yeah, you're getting
Cal, we're having trouble hearing you.
You're having trouble hearing me?
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know what to do.
All right. That's all right. Maybe we'll just cut it there. But thank you so much.
That sucks that you didn't know, and then
Yeah.
then did.
That's
only for a very short while.
That seems to be in modern comics. They give you a run, and then it's like they renumber and give it to someone else. They have a run, they renumber it, give it to somebody else, and it's.
How about now?
That's good.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good.
So
That's
what happened was my cat pulled the cable out, and it defaulted to the internal microphone inside the laptop.
Makes sense.
I was gonna say,
Sorry
you're
about that.
so loud now. It's
I
great.
swear I heard a fan. It was probably from the computer. Yeah.
Are we live, or were you recording this?
Both.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to say any of that again?
It's up to you.
Do you want to relive it?
It's okay. No, I mean the long and short of it was that no, I did not know what was coming in Forever Evil. And 2 days before San Diego, they ran like bloody Nightwing logo advertisements, and it says, "When the unthinkable happens." And I was like, well, I'm writing his book. Like, I feel like I should know what the unthinkable is, right? Like, and, they felt differently, or certain people felt differently. So I did finally figure out what was going on. But then, the way I figured out was when I was in San Diego, like, yeah, they, offered the book to someone else, and that person told me. So this
is a cutthroat. This is a cutthroat industry.
It can be. But yeah, then I was told after San Diego, like, okay, we're gonna wrap up the book. You're gonna close it out. It's gonna be finished and done. We're at issue 29. That's your last issue, and the book is gonna end. And what was really crazy was that the book was selling quite well still. And then what was crazier is that they had no plan for what to do afterwards. So I write issue 29, and then they decide they're going to add an issue 30. And then that didn't end up happening the way that everyone thought it was going to happen. Because again, there was no plan for what to do with a new Nightwing series or a new whatever. And so Tom and Tim were, let me see if I remember this right. Then someone called me back, and said, hey, I feel like you didn't get to say goodbye. Do you want to write issue 30? And I was like, no, I said goodbye. Like, did you not read my last issue? Like, I said everything, And they were like, well, we would need the issue 30 script in like 3 days. And I was like, I'm going to pass. And I turned it down. And then I think Tom was lined up for what would eventually become Grayson, but they paired Tom with Tim for issue 30, which they did in the crazy amount of time. And then I think that carried over into what became Grayson, but I was out by that point and I was pretty angry. And so I didn't really keep up with the internal, like what was going on, but I know that what became Grayson was a surprise, like for sure.
Wow.
And I've heard the book's great. Like I haven't read it, but everything I saw looked awesome. So
it's pretty fun.
So that wasn't the plan from day one. They just came up with
No, there was no, that's what I'm saying. There was no plan for what to do with Dick Grayson after revealing his secret identity to the world. There was no plan for what that would mean.
Feels like this is something you would plan.
They didn't even tell me what they were doing. So
especially like you said, if the book's selling, I don't know, you would think you would at least have a plan if you're going to, I understand.
Yeah, it's weird.
I understand you want like big, Dick Grayson's out into the world and stuff. Okay, I get it. It's a big thing, but it's like, don't you plan or at least get a writer and say, hey, what are you going to do next?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they were looking to change things up, I guess. And Jeff had these story beats that he wanted to do in Forever Evil. But, when you have an event like that, there are going to be characters that are utilized in different ways that perhaps you're doing a company-wide event, and this happens no matter who the writer is. They're able to pull characters from wherever. And sometimes things like that happen where you go like, that's a story beat I need for this event. Now, does it impact the character going forward? Well, it'll have to. But if that character is not a part of that writer's like kind of normal like status quo of books that they are going to be that they would take on after the event, then it's like it's up to kind of the group editor and or whoever the creative force on those that the Bat books at the time would be of what it's going to be. I do remember vaguely like there were conversations like Snyder and James Tynan were talking about like maybe you just make him a spy. Cause again, it's like, okay, his identity is going to be revealed to the world. There are only so many stories you can do there in the immediate aftermath of that. And that at the same time, the other thing that was happening was Mike Martz was leaving DC and Mark Doyle was taking over as the Batman group editor. So there was a transition happening as well. And so when you look at Grayson, and again, like I said, I haven't read the series, but I've seen enough of it. You can see Mark Doyle's kind of handprints on that. In that it has a little bit more of like a Vertigo flavor, and it's not like straight up superhero action. Like it plays with the medium and the form a little bit more. Yeah. So yeah, that's the story. That's the story of it. But
so are you on contract for every individual issue pretty much when you get a book?
No. Well, it depends on who you are. I was never on contract at DC at all. So there are some writers who sign exclusives. But that's kind of the only contract that is there. Like even when I was doing Power Rangers at Boom, they kept referring to contracts. And I remember saying like, we don't have a contract. Like I don't have like, we have an agreement for what a rate will be for 11 issues. But guess what? If you decide you don't want me after issue 6, it's not like you have to pay me for issues 7 through 11. Like that's not, but at the same time, like if we hit issue 11, that means I can renegotiate because I'm not locked in on a rate, but it's not a contract guaranteeing work. And so like the understanding in comics, especially like work for hire comics, is like, if you're on an ongoing series, you're on it until like, then they give you notice usually of like how many issues you have left, if they're going to end the book or if they want to bring in a different creative team, it's usually a conversation. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's different for each person. So.
All right. Well, again, Cal, thank you so much for taking your time out. I mean, I really appreciate talking to you. And again, before we let you go, do you want to plug anything again or get the word out there?
No, I mean, I've got some creator-owned stuff coming up, and I've got some movie stuff coming up as well. Knock on wood. And I also have something that I'm pitching next week that I'm really excited about, and that's one that have a good thought for it is what I would ask you guys, because I think it could be really cool. So
awesome, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and one day I may reach out to you again because we do talk other comics here. So we have the multiple.
Oh, you do?
Shows.
It's not just Nightwing?
Yeah, no, we have multiple.
No,
shows,
this show is only Nightwing.
Wait, so how often? I'm going to turn it around on you guys. How often do you guys do this and do Nightwing?
Well, me and Kristen usually talk Nightwing once a week. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And Tyler's just crashing?
Yes.
Tyler's here because I'm just a real fan of your work.
Oh, thanks, man.
Oh, yeah, he heard your name. He was like, oh, can I get in on that? I was like, yeah.
Yeah, actually, we're same wing time, same wing channel.
Oh, that's good.
Every Monday at 9:15. Well, that's our time. So yours
do you
is
hang
6:15?
out? Do you hang out in the aviary, too? Is that what you would call it? Or
Ooh. It is now.
I don't know. We hang out at the... So Phil does all the technical things, and I just talk.
Okay.
It works out well for me.
Tyler, is that a fortress of solitude down there where you are?
It's the Cave of Solitude.
The Cave of Solitude. Okay.
Because it's my base. Like, you can only see part of it, but like I got more stuff over here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Like you can kind of see there's more stuff over here. Like,
oh, nice. What do you think? What do you think of? I saw a Justice League poster. What do you think of? What's that?
I said it's right there.
Yeah. Well, I can't see it now, but what do you think of the DC, some of the DC film, like the Justice League film or Man of Steel? As a Superman fan, what's your feeling?
Man, that's a big question. But my thing is, it's weird because I know you're a film guy, like of course you're a director and everything. So like I get like the director integrity, I get what they're trying to do, but I also understand that like you can have your vision and you're trying to work through something, but then you have studio interference and your story gets muddled. Like you don't get to complete your vision. So like I understand that, Man of Steel I really like, and we could talk about that all day. Like there's things different, but like growth of the character, differences I really appreciate in that film. There's a couple of things I don't like that happen in that film. One being the tanker truck scene. Okay, that's quick. Zod kicks the tanker truck at him, and instead of stopping it, he like jumps and like slides between it, and then it blows up and blows the building behind him. I thought that was a little, negligent on his part. As far as Justice League goes, I'm really excited to see like what they release on HBO Max as the Snyder Cut, just because of that whole like background story about all the interference from the studio. Basically the movie was reshot, re-edited, and like Frankenstein. And that's what we got in theaters. But what's funny to me though is looking at the Justice League film that we got, and a lot of those Superman scenes, like especially at the end where he shows up as Superman, I love. Like as tacky as it is, like when he shows up and it's like, I believe in truth, but I'm also a big fan of justice. Like he punches Steppenwolf, like you cheer every time. That was all part of the reshoot stuff. So it's kind of interesting. Like I really like that scene. So I just, my thing is to stay positive, trying to enjoy the characters, looking forward to the new TV series. I think that's a little bit more like, well, I'm excited because like one thing that got me back excited is when they did Superman as a dad, because when they introduced that whole Lois and Clark angle came out in 2015, Jurgen's run there. That's when my son was born, was that year. So like the idea of Superman being a dad, and then so like that was just something I loved in the story. And since now they're going to bring that to film, TV,
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting for where the character is going to go.
Cool.
I'm just trying to be all quick here.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I haven't seen Justice League. I haven't seen. Well, I guess it's probably easier if I say what I have seen. I saw Man of Steel, and I saw Wonder Woman. Those are the
nice.
Yeah,
I love Shazam. Because it's just a good feel.
Oh yeah, that was
movie.
fun. Yeah, that was
Even though it has the worst villain of all of DC in it.
Which one? Oh, Shazam.
Yep. Billy Batson's mom is the worst villain of all of DC films.
Spoiler alert! Oh my god. No, I probably won't see it. I didn't. Yeah, I really disliked Man of Steel, and I have a lot of respect for Zack Snyder. It is hard enough to get a movie made to begin with, and I'm just talking movies in general. But a lot, his stuff's not really my cup of tea. So I made a decision at a certain point where it was I'm not gonna go see a movie that I feel like I'm 90% sure I'm not gonna enjoy. So I'm just gonna tap out on these. So, but I enjoyed Wonder Woman, or most of it.
I liked Wonder Woman. I'm not a fan of the huge. I'm just not a fan of the third act CG, just where I can't really tell anything is real or what. It's just a bunch of light and color.
See, I actually liked the third act of Wonder Woman. I actually thought I thought it was pretty solid, all things considered. But my thing is more I don't like a lot of the overall aesthetics of not even just how the movie is shot, but just the tone in general. And some of that is with with how it's shot, but also just different writing and performance things as well. And I'm not a Hans Zimmer fan, so I don't like that kind of tone of music for especially a superhero thing. But again, it's just my preference.
What's funny is I was champing online for the longest time for Michael Giacchino to write the music for a new Superman film.
I don't like him either.
And now he's doing the Batman.
No,
because
yeah.
Because I felt like Giacchino did a good job plugging into Jurassic World, kind of picking up where Williams was.
Nope.
So
I'm gonna totally disagree on it.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, he's really. I'm a total film score nerd and junkie. I guess I don't know. That's the one area where I definitely have a lot of opinions.
No, that's fine.
Because
who do you like? Then?
Well, I like. I don't know how to say this without it sounding really negative, but my big problem with Giacchino is that I don't think he can write for an orchestra. So he writes some interesting melodies, but I don't hear orchestral writing that I really like. And I was a musician for 15 years, so. And when you're,
what'd you play?
I was a trumpet player, but I'm a big Jerry Goldsmith, John Williams, James Horner. My favorite composer is Elliot Goldenthal. There is a richness in the sound and in the orchestral writing that you can tell when someone really knows what they're doing and how to use the orchestra as an instrument. And one of the big problems I have with Hans's work, and again, I respect it, and I respect Giacchino as well, it's just not my cup of tea, is that there are a couple ways to get a big sound, and I prefer a big sound through counterpoint and melodies playing in harmonies and melodies playing off of a counterpoint counter melody, right? And what Hans does is he gets a big sound by basically having 90 people play the exact same thing. And so
the multiple layer drummers and stuff where
I don't care. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing interesting going on there. Just because it's massive doesn't make it interesting. And in a lot of cases, I actually think it's an overly reductive simplification of what an orchestra can do. And, but he's also not an orchestral writer. And Giacchino's not either. And they have arrangers and things like that, but it's just like, I can kind of spot and I can hear, it's like, oh man, it's an okay theme, but like if you had somebody who really could build it out. That said, The Incredibles is one of my all-time favorite film scores, and that's Giacchino. But it's Giacchino doing John Barry, you know?
What did you think of John Ottman's reorchestration and new
for Superman Returns?
Yeah.
I loved it. And John's not really an orchestral writer either. Like, he writes for orchestra, and I've known John for a long time, actually. John, but when I say he's not an orchestral writer, like John didn't study, and Giacchino didn't study like orchestral writing. Like a lot of it is auditory, like a lot of it is on the piano, and then you have arrangers that are coming in and doing your orchestrations and actually making it like, here's how it could kind of work, you know, as an orchestral piece. John, you know, I hear Superman Returns, and they're like, I can hear influences in it. Like I can hear certain James Hornerisms and some Goldsmith, and there's a few other things as well. But that sequence of the airplane, All Boosters Go, I think is the track title on Superman Returns, is still like one of my all-time favorites. Like, anyway, yeah, I could see now we got on a subject that I could do like 2 hours on, but
no, because I actually have like a disc in my car that's just film score music that my kids absolutely love, and my son will request to listen to that, and I'm trying to teach him and listening to, and we were listening to Danny Elfman, because Halloween time, Danny Elfman's Joker, and he started talking about how the similarities in the sound of like just the bass volume. And this is a 5-year-old, you know, like he's like, Daddy, that sounds a lot like this. And he's like talking to he's musically minded. And so it's just like, it's something that I've got them really into. Like even at night, he likes to have music. So I have all these like movie themed lullabies, and he'll listen to it, and he can pick it out and tell you like, oh, that's, he'll be like, that's Harry Potter, or that's Back to the Future. That's Jurassic Park. And he knew the Back to the Future music before he saw the movie. So when we watched the movie, he was like, I already know this music.
Sure.
So
it's a funny one. Batman Forever and Batman and Robin are exceptional film scores. Those are Elliot Goldenthal. And go listen to those, and then listen to Hans Zimmer, and tell me which one sounds bigger. Because Goldenthal with French horns and a full command of what an orchestra can do, and all of the colorations that you can mix in there, it's just it's a much more rich kind of sonic tapestry that you're hearing, because everything is built out across the auditory spectrum, right? He's using all of the instruments kind of to their fullest potential, as opposed to 50 drums, like, which looks cool to a studio exec during the recording session, because you walk in and you're in this huge stage and there's 50 taiko drummers, and you're like, oh my God, this is massive, but they're all playing the same thing.
I really do appreciate the score for Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. But okay, Kyle. Oh, I probably should shut up because I could go on forever. So,
hey, you got your own podcast. Have Kyle on.
Phil might just kill us.
Kyle.
Just keep going.
I was like, Phil can just stop. Phil can just stop the recording, and you can just keep talking until you're done.
You're always welcome to come on Krypton Report. We could discuss. I'd love to discuss more about just the scores. Would be fun for, you know, Supergirl and Superman, and of course John Ottman's use of everything.
Sorry, this cat is he is determined. Determined.
Your cat wants you to wrap it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
my cat ran off. She didn't want to say hi this time.
Phil might drive to my house and punch me.
Oh, you're a state away. Come on. All right.
I'll go to his house and punch him. You're in Ohio, right, Tyler?
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, yes. Thank you, Cal. Thank you, Cal, so much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again.
Yeah, it would be my pleasure if I could I'll lock the cat in the bedroom next time.
Oh, poor guy.
I know. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me, guys. And sorry the audio went out for a little while there, and you can blame him. But hopefully most of it was audible.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'd say 99%. Yeah, we're good. All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. All right. Have a good one.
You got.
Good luck.
Nope. All right. So everything you wanted to know about Kyle Higgins, everyone. From his comics work, his taste in music, everything. All right, so let's get out of here. Tyler.
Okay, play us out, Phil.
I was going to say, Tyler, where can
you... Just find me on Krypton Report.
All right, everyone. And if you want to get a hold of us, email us, capesandlunatics@gmail.com. Call the voicemail 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Find all our links at Linktree, linktr.ee/capesandlunatics. And remember the sponsors, Tweaked Audio, Hunt a Killer, Pod Life the book, now digital and paperback, and also a book, Ric Grayson Boy Wonder, put together by that woman right there, even though she's always too shy to say it. All right, and use the link for Southgate Media Group whenever you go on Amazon. Help us support this show, the network, and crazy man Rob Master Doom Southgate.
Make it rain, so says Master Doom.
All right, so, yes.
I like.
You know what you didn't get? Well, I can put it in later, but you know you didn't get?
Diggity dank.
There you go.
I was just going to say, you didn't get diggity dank.
There you go. All right.
And this episode was diggity dank.
That's right. So, and next time, I sent the email to confirm. Hopefully we hear back. Yeah, Dan Jurgens, hopefully next week for the Nightwing 75 will be out by then.
Yeah, that's the earlier time though, right?
Yes, that's the 4:30.
So, not same wing time, but same wing time.
Yes. In 2 weeks it'll be the same. Yeah.
And I'll be quiet, Phil, I promise.
No, that's fine. Talk the first hour. All right. So, kind of, sort of, if you're listening on the podcast, join us next time. Same wing time.
Same wing channel.
Nightwing News.